Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti al canale del Sussidiario Italiano. Good morning everybody and welcome back to my channel. In this video I would like to propose you a solid and fundamental game plan that you should implement before, possibly very before, starting your Italian journey, or actually any journey in any foreign language acquisition, foreign language learning. We are talking about Italian in this channel all the time, and so the game plan will be for Italian. And that game plan that I let's say established is coming from a book that I recently read, Fluent Forever, that I encourage everybody to read because of the enthusiasm, the richness, the enthusiasm of the author, the depth, the practical suggestion, all the materials, and especially it goes very deep into flashcards that are very fascinating items. So I strongly encourage you to read Fluent Forever by Gabriel Weiner. And that book has been a good source of inspiration that I put together with my own experience of my almost 20 years of teaching Italian to foreigners and 16 of these to Americans. So as I said many times, my public, ideal public is the American students, the American learners. So dear Americans, let's implement, let's strategize a solid game plan that allows us to learn Italian efficiently. There are no shortcuts at any level. There are some little tricks. There are some nice things to do, very good tools. There is so much around. And that's another reason why we need to pay attention, not to disperse ourselves. That's the game plan. We brace to the game plan. We implement it because it really helps us learning. And so I would not suggest anybody to start just learning, just getting a book and just following it. It's a way, but if we have a solid and varied game plan, a list of priorities, a modus agendi, I think a way of acting, a way of proceeding, I think is way better. So my first suggestion, my first part of this game plan to learn Italian would be get very familiar with the sound system. The sound system, which means the pronunciation, how Italian sounds. Italian is not English, Italian is not French, so it has, of course, its own sounds, it has its own music, rhythm, and tone and pronunciation, right? We don't know anything about it yet, and it all sounds like kind of a music or some kind of a verse. That's good, but we need to get into that in order to then recognize words and parts of the sentences. So first of all, get familiar with the sound system. How? Well, one good way is using some apps that are often too much despised, and I don't understand why. Like Duolingo, for example. The free part for Italian is pretty good. I encourage my student in a very early stage to use apps like Duolingo. Of course, Duolingo will not make you speak in few months, but very few things, maybe just going to Italy and staying there and never speak English, will make you speak Italian kind of fluently in few weeks, few months. So don't worry about Duolingo, that does not make you speak immediately. Duolingo does a very good job in familiarizing you with the sound system of the Italian. They pronounce words very well, very clearly. They put words together, they make sentences, so you get familiar with this rhythm. This music starts to penetrate in your head, through your ears, through your skin, basically. If you like music, great, listen to music. There are on YouTube or wherever, there are many other apps. There are so many ways to listen to Italian music. You will not understand every word. Maybe you can put the words, you can put the karaoke mode, that's good, but that's not really at this moment our score. Our goal is just to get familiar with the sounds that compose the syllables, the words, etc., etc. So at this point, it's extremely important that you do that. And Gabriel Weiner says it very, very well at page 94 of his book. To create a deep multisensory memory for a word, you'll need to combine several ingredients: spelling, sounds, meaning, and personal connection. And this is the basic of all his book, right? Creating this meaningful and important connection, personal connection that then, in his opinion, will make you fluent forever. There are maybe some degrees to that, but pretty much this is good. And at page 146, he goes on and say, by learning the sound of your language, of your target language in Italian, in this case, you gain access to words, right? And this is our second step. By learning words, you gain access to grammar, he continues. And with just a little bit of grammar, you gain access to the rest of your language. This is very optimistic, and I love it. I love the optimism of the American people. I would be a little bit more prudent and in thinking that, because it's not that easy, it's not that immediate, so people can get discouraged, but you will not, because I am behind you. I'm working with you. So let's get familiar with words now. Now we know how they sound, we know how the system works. We have listened to hours and hours of Italian in music, maybe in prose, maybe we listen to a very easy book, maybe we have somebody speaking Italian in our life, and we are using Duolingo on your phone or on our computer. We are pretty familiar with this, with the sound system. And now the words that are the smaller part, but the foundation and the bricks of every building, of every language. I would start, since you have the fortune of speaking English, and for historical reasons, English has something like 10,000 words of Latin descent. I would encourage you to go to cognates, meaning words that in Italian are transparent, and vice versa. English and Italian are transparent. I said, why they are transparent? They are transparent because they come from Latin, right? They have a common Latin origin or a common Latin stem. Remember, parts of Great Britain were Roman colony back in the Roman time, but also the Normans, the French Normans, in the 11th century conquered Britain. And the conquest of Britain, you remember 1066, the date, when Hastings happened. What happened after was the Norman French, mean a language coming from Latin, entering deeply, profoundly into the culture, into the administration, into the law, into the government, and into everyday life. And that was the last great conquest that British people had. They were subject to. And that linguistical part is the part that plays a good part for you, because those 10,000, this 50%, 40% of English words that come from a Neo-Latin language, such as French, constitute or tend to constitute cognates, words that are similar to Italian, because Italian, just like French, is a Neo-Latin language. So many words will be transparent. Start with a good cognate list and capitalize on that. Capitalize on that, because they are the easier words that you can learn, because they are so similar to your own language, to the English language. Of course, the pronunciation, thus the sound system, will be in handy here, so you will know how to pronounce them, but then will be easier to remember. And while you are expanding, you are starting to get englobate, to let yourself be penetrated by vocabulary, you're starting to learn and then acquire vocabulary. New vocabulary will go deeper and deeper until it will become, from passive, just recognizing the word and kind of knowing what it means, it will become embedded in your brain and will be part of your active vocabulary, the vocabulary that you actually are ready to use when you're speaking, and above all when you are trying to understand and when you are understanding. So together with the cognates, when you are done with the cognates and you already have a good basis of 100, if not 1,000 of words, then you can Google it, or you can buy a high frequency list of vocabulary. This is another idea of Fluent Forever that is great. Vocabulary lists are lists of words that computers and kind of very good artificial intelligence put together. They take hundreds of thousands of texts of any kind, book, discourses, text of any kind, and they see how many times a word recurs, how many times a word is used. The most common, the most recurrent words are put at the very beginning, and they go down on a frequency list, how much they appear all the time. So if you can learn 1,000 of those high frequency words and know the meaning and remember the meaning, then you will control something like 70-75% of what is told or written in Italian, which is a lot. And if you go to 2,000 and more, you can get 80-85%, which is a lot, which is incredibly a lot. So at this point, you are focusing on words. You already know the sounds, so you know how to pronounce the words. You memorize words. The best idea, of course, is starting with cognates and then using context, small sentences in which you insert the words you are learning, because without a context, it's kind of hard to remember words by themselves. It's like we say in Italian, they come inside one ear to your head and then they come outside. Entra da un orecchio e esce dall'altro, meaning it doesn't stay in the head, it doesn't not become acquired, it just become forgotten, and then you have to repeat it. I think Weiner says something good about that too, I guess. Page 188, once you reach the intermediate level, which is like words and sentences, you unlock a pair of new activities, reading and listening. Wow, that's great. These activities can be tremendously valuable, ultimately giving you an ability to reach advanced levels without any feeling of work. Well, I'm not sure about any feeling of work, but for sure, knowing a lot of words and knowing the context, knowing sentences, short sentences to begin with, and then a little bit longer every time, for sure unlocks the ability to listen and to understand, which understanding gives a lot of pleasure to a language learner. And of course, also production. You can say things, you can write down sentence, you can pronounce sentence. So I would go a little step here. You need some structures, the walls, the ceilings, the floor. And those structure is called grammar. And grammar may evoke some bad thoughts, some bad memories of boring rules to listen, rules to memorize, but it is not just like that. It is how a language really works, how words are put together, how verbs are conjugated, how adverbs modify, how conjunction put together. So it's to see how a body is made from the inside, from the cellular level, from the bone structure, from everything. Studying grammar is very, very, very fascinating and rewarding. You don't have to become an expert in grammar. You don't have to study grammar for years. You just, at this point, you can take a good book, and I can, in the future, tell what books, in my opinion, work better than others and suggest them to you. But at this point, starting to read and practice some exercises, some activities on a good discursive grammar book, structure book would be good. And of course, with grammar comes with the syntax, the word order, how a sentence is made in this exactly way. The verb, the subject, the verb, the complement. Okay. Io mangio la mela. I eat the apple. La mela è molto buona. The apple is very good. This why the syntax explains and shows you how there is this word order, and the grammar tells you why the mela is singular feminine, the verb is with accent and not without accent, e buona is feminine, and it does it in concordanza with the name. So all those things that are super fascinating, although not super easy to remember, at least at the beginning, are very important. So at this point, you start to play in our game plan. We are implementing step by step. You are starting to play with grammar and syntax. And when you have the sound system, when you have the words, the brick, and when you have the basics and the foundation, and then the buildings, the starting walls, the ceiling and the roof, then we can do what is really fun, at least for me, which is reading. And I say as a fourth step, reading, reading, and reading. You may start with some, and Weiner says that too, and that's absolutely right. You start with maybe a graded book, meaning an easier book or book for children, and you read it. You read it once, twice, 3 times. You don't get discouraged if you don't understand everything, because it's absolutely normal you don't, okay? So you read your pages, you make sense, you go just for strategic words, meaning you look for words that keep you from understanding the meaning of an entire sentence. And you don't go for every word, because if you go for every word and look up every word, then you get kind of bored, exhausted, discouraged, and then you leave. No, be strategic. One word here and there that keep you from understanding the whole sentence. And then this is what I call with my students in class, the strategic words, the words that you need to strategize in order to understand what the paragraph is about. And another step that can be contemporary to that, or a little bit later on, you add audiobooks. Audiobooks are your best friends with reading. I do it all the time with English. I want to read an American novel. I love American novels, English novels. I love every kind of novels. I cannot read in the original language. So for English, I always get an audiobook, and sometimes I just read while I listen. I strongly encourage you to do the same for language learning. You get the book, you get the audiobook or the app that reads it for you, possibly not read by AI, but with an intonation that is Italian. So read by a human being that is native speaker in the language, in Italian, and you listen to it and you make sense of every word, of every sentence. So the consolidation of the sound system goes on, the consolidation of the vocabulary goes on, the consolidation of grammar and syntax goes on during the listening and the reading together or separate, okay? And then we have the vexata question of the speaking. Speaking is very hard. Speaking a foreign language takes a lot of time. There are not shortcuts. There is a lot of practice. There is a lot of time involved. What you really need to do is to take patience, to be patient with yourself, not to get frustrated immediately when you cannot speak. So I encourage you to shadow pronounce, meaning you write down a sentence or you see a sentence written somewhere and you pronounce it as you were saying it to a friend of yours. Once, twice, 10 times, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. You just kind of read aloud, recite, with the help of your books, your notes, your apps, whatever works for you, right? But shadow saying, shadow speaking is good. And that is the step next to the next level, the real speaking. For that, you can hire a tutor if you don't have access to an Italian zone, an Italian place where Italian is currently spoken. You can get a tutor online, a trusted one, and you can do conversation. Okay, you can go in tandem, in half English. English is very required. It's very in high demand in Italy. So you may find online a lot of people that would agree to do an hour of Italian and an hour of English, no charge, or pay something and do it. Okay, you can use a friend. If you have an Italian, you have the fortune or the occasion of having an Italian person willing to talk to you in Italian. Italian tend to be very happy to speak English, so good luck. But you can still find it. So good luck, and then practice speaking, and that will take the rest of your life, because the real act of speaking is not something that you start once and you get once and it's for all. Fluent forever means practicing forever. It doesn't mean that once you learn, then you can stop and then keep in your mind forever. I think only computers can do that, only AI can do that, but we are not still at that level, and our brain is still free, I hope, of microchips. So we have to practice. So go in loco. In Latin means in the place. Go to Italy. Italy is a beautiful place. It's a little bit expensive nowadays, but still is a very good, beautiful place. So go there and try and see the difference between when you speak Italian to Italians, when you approach them and speak their own language to them, how they appreciate you more, how they're more open, etc., etc. So try that and practice. So this is my game plan. This is the game plan, and I would encourage you not to start Italian, not to start a journey of learning Italian without a very solid, well-structured, well-defined game plan. This is my proposal. This is my idea, based on my experience and this book that I recently read and I found very useful, full of suggestions, full of materials, full of ideas. And let me show it to you. Here we go. Exhibit A, Fluent Forever, revised edition. How to learn any language fast and never forget it. Okay, on the subtitle, I have something to say about it, but anyway, by Gabriel Weiner. For sure you can learn it very effectively. About the never forget it, it depends on you and how much you practice it. And this is the original game plan, okay? The sound system, you can use Duolingo or music for the phonetics, meaning the sound of the language. When you are solid about that, starts with words, cognates, words in context, and also after that go through a frequency list vocabulary, then go to grammar and syntax. There is no shortcut about that. Unfortunately, you have to go through it and you have to have fun. I will put a lot of videos about structures and about syntax, and then go to phrases and short paragraphs. Again, to practice, because now you have words put in an order. You have a syntax, you have a sentence, you have a period. So you have a solid part of the language. And then just when you are good on your phrases, on your short periods, go reading, and possibly listen along, or listen before and read after, or do the same at the same time, do the two at the same time, okay? Then after that, start to shadow pronounce things, because it will start, it will boil into you Italian. The language, the enthusiasm of the language will boil. You will say words first, just like little baby that start with the lallazione, no? Ba, ba, ma, pa, pa. And then you will go to more complex words, to sentences, and then to whole discourse that you can do to yourself and to other people. And then practice speaking, and probably with a tutor at the beginning, if you have the chance and the money to, on the occasion, with the friends, if you have, and maybe book a trip to Italy. And these are the notes that I took from the book. I like to handwrite, even though my writing is not always super clear, and sometimes my students are aware of that, but anyway, it is what. And that was the game plan that I encourage you to implement before you start your Italian journey. Okay, it's just about starting, and then with the fun, with the pleasure, everything comes along. Okay, thank you for having listened to me. Thank you for your time. Please like, subscribe, maybe share if you think somebody can have this, can find this video any useful. So thank you again, and coraggio e coraggio.